Welcome, GBP Pros. GBP Pros, welcome everyone. Welcome those that are on here live, those that are on Facebook Live, those that are catching the podcast, and those that are on the YouTube channel watching the replay. Appreciate everyone and everybody's support. So remember, twofold of GPP Pros. One is to help the agencies get better results for your clients and help you grow your agency, and as a business owner is to help you get that phone ringing, right? At the end of the day, that's all that really matters, right? And we do that by bringing in our friends, and they speak on their area of expertise, and not only kind of a speak on it, but kind of give over the shoulders example depending on the topic. Now, guys, today, literally about 2.5 hours ago, I said, okay, let me go take my car in for brakes. I needed brakes on my truck. And that was 2.5 hours ago, and I'm still here, and they have not touched my car. I can see it from here. So I'm like going live from the brake shop here, guys. And today's guest is my friend. We um, kind of bonded a little bit, solidified, I think, our relationship in DC. One of my favorite trips here recently. Um, Brian, now help me with the pronunciation. We learned that everybody's been saying
Yeah,
it wrong, right?
yeah,
Gato?
it's Kato, correct, like an avocado.
Gato. There you
Yeah,
go,
yeah, it's all
Gato.
good. Yeah, people say Kato, it's fine,
Right.
we're good. But yeah, no, it was a pleasure getting to hang out with you in DC, and yeah, just kind of learn a little bit more about your background and kind of just your experience in SEO as well. So that was cool. And I
Yeah,
think the
right. Yeah,
first time we actually met was at Craig Campbell and Chris Palmer's deal in Vegas, like last year,
that's right.
right?
That's right.
That was
That's right.
fun.
In fact, I probably told you 100 times, but you remind me of my friend Joseph Garcia. Like I think I even
Yeah, I
showed
know we
you
did the
pictures
the
of
two side by side, right?
yeah, 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 for sure. You guys' demeanor, you guys' everything, you guys look alike. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
that's right. It was in Vegas, at Craig Campbell's and Chris's SEO conference mastermind. And then we saw each other again at DC. Now, just to kind of give the people a little intro about you, if you can tell us, how you got into this game, where you're at now, and like what does the future hold? I know we were just talking about that a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. So, initially, I actually got into kind of digital marketing through web development. So I was building some really like cheap ass, WordPress sites, doing some like really chintzy stuff there, just to kind of make things work. At the time, I was also a touring musician. So I was a frontman and vocalist in a band and created our own website, and we were doing stuff like that. So kind of cut my teeth a little bit in business through the entertainment industry, and then
Nice.
decided to go back to school. As I was in college, I found out that I'm halfway decent at database design, and so ended up really kind of taking an affinity to that. Databases, which consequently lends itself really well to the spreadsheet kind of stuff that I do. Um, and then, yeah, got into marketing via reputation management, was doing that for a bunch of years, and then went full on into project management. I worked at an agency where I was doing project management. I was the head of SEO and head of paid search. And so doing like three jobs at the same time, just you want to talk about burnout, that's the definition of burnout right there. And as if I'm not a glutton enough for pain enough there, I decided to start my own agency. And so, I mean, right, out of the frying pan into the fire. Um, and so that's kind of where I got into it. Currently, I've done a lot with kind of pushing.
Oh, let me get frozen here. Let me see what's going on. Message. Querido. I'm not sure if it's my internet or his. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Give me a minute here. Pum, pum, pum. And this is the blessing of being live. It's the okay, I think he's messaging me, guys. Yeah, we did lose him. He's jumping right back in here in a minute. So give me a minute, guys. So as Kato comes back, we'll get back on here. If you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to ask on the live here. Let's see. Let me send him over the link. There he is. Oh, that's Dave. What's going on, Dave? And Kato is coming on. Give me a second, Dave. We just lost him. I guess he has some internet connections. So he's rejoining here. Just in time.
There we are.
There he is.
Hey, how's it going? Hey, sorry
Good,
about that. Yeah,
good.
it switched, ended up having to switch routers here. Um,
No worries.
so yeah, long and the short of it, I was doing where we were at was yeah, I was doing reputation management for a while. And then from there, really got into just kind of the full-on marketing stream. So that's kind of where I'm at. As it is right now, I enjoy pushing the limits, seeing, what we can do to make tools function in an unanticipated way, or just different things that we can kind of test the limits, test the boundaries. So that's kind of where I'm
Awesome.
at.
Awesome. So I know you're known for, some black hat stuff. I know in some of these conferences that you speak at, you speak about
Yeah.
protecting yourself. And I don't know if you knew it, but you picked up the name here a little bit. You're a freak in the sheets, meaning Google
Yeah.
Sheets. So, guys, if,
Yeah.
if you don't know that about Brian, he's definitely, I got that course. Having had a chance to dive in with the traveling and stuff. When I get
Yeah.
into something, I'm like put my blindfolds, but I did get that. So freak in the sheets, Google Sheets, black hat, white hat. So let me ask you, I just came back from the Philippines, man. And I know you
Mhm.
do a lot of speaking, a lot of traveling.
Yeah.
What are your some of like pros and cons of it, or why do you do it? Because we were just talking about that. You have a
Yeah.
few talks, and you've done a few since the last time.
Yeah. Yeah. So, a couple things that really kind of stick out to me, and I would really encourage people, don't just stick to one audience, right? Like branch out, experience a couple different things. Because one of the things that I enjoy doing is I'll go to these conferences and I try to learn from other again, like kind of like with my tools or using sheets for unintended purposes or things like that. You want to think through, and like there's everything that can be applicable, depending on how you apply it to what it is that you're doing. There's certain things that you can do with copywriting that could be applied to your link building. There's things in link building that could be applied to your graphic design. There, I think in general, a lot of people in the SEO industry plow forward with blinders on, right? They're just like, I'm an SEO and SEO is all I need, and I'm going to stay focused on this. And while that can help you get your core foundational um, elements of whatever the job that you're trying to do, if you're doing on-page SEO, you need to understand how like foundational on-page works. If you're doing link building, you need to know at a foundational level how link building works. But once you have that kind of dialed in or you understand it pretty well, you can start looking at how these other components within marketing play into the fact that when you're doing link building, you also need to be thinking about CRO. When you're thinking about that, you might also need to be looking at copywriting and sales, getting someone to convert with it. You may need to look at things like your presentation and your graphic work, right? Just because you can push power with a link doesn't mean that that's always the best course of action or the best option to move forward with, right? There's different elements that you can take from a variety of people. I've seen some fantastic copywriters, and I've taken some of that stuff and pulled that into the different ways that we approach SEO, link building, and just website development, and we'll apply those things just so that it enhances what we're doing.
Yeah, that is so true. Like, right, especially in our community, in our group, it's blinders, it's the black cats, the shiny stuff, but there's so much more to it. At the end of the day, it's about making your phone ring for your clients. And two, it's about
Absolutely.
paying your bills and taking care of your family, right? So there's more
Yeah.
to it than go or there's benefits of going outside of your circle. We were talking about SEOs learning sales or hiring somebody for sales or
Mhm.
organization and really making this a real business to help other businesses and ultimately why we got into this is help yourselves. Now guys, I wanted to point something out that Brian, I heard it, I think it was in Vegas, using a tool for its unintended purposes. So if you guys hear me
Yeah.
say that, this is exactly, and I think I mentioned it when I brought that up before, giving Brian the credit. And that is
Oh,
so
thanks, man.
true. So true. It's like, look at the tool and for its unintended purposes, how you can leverage it. And Brian is excellent at that. Excellent, right? Like those glasses are something extra, right? Looking at things a little bit differently. So 100% love that. Love how you said, go outside of your circle and grow as a person and a network. That is super cool. Now, Brian, as far as SEO and a business, let's take it outside. Business owners, right? Plumbers,
Sure.
service-based businesses, all the nerdy stuff of SEO. Like, how important is that? How important is that, like, to know, what are you looking for when you talk to an agency? You
Yeah.
know, getting your money's worth. Are they doing what they said, right? Especially with our industry, guys learning, guys are, maybe they're not where they should be, or different levels. As a business owner, how can we leverage different agencies?
So a couple things in points that I would take from what you were just asking there. Number one, if you're, I think that a lot of people really get hung up on the reporting and slicing and dicing your metrics. Don't get me wrong, I'm a data nerd. I love data. However, for a lot of general businesses, they don't care. And so that was a really pivotal moment for me when we were doing a lot of reporting, unless it's inexpensive to do, unless it's very low effort on my part. We leverage a lot of like dashboards and stuff like that that we can just pop open with the client and say, this is how you're doing, this is what we do here, and this is kind of these are the kind of high points that you should be paying attention to. I think that as SEOs, we tend to focus a little bit too much with blinders on that. Like, we shaved off half a second on your website, and that's awesome that we did that. At the end of the day, that doesn't really matter to a business. To a business owner, what they really care about is cash money in hand. If they gave you a retainer of $1,300, did they make at least $1,300 back from your services? If not, it's a losing deal for them, and it's probably just bad business, right? You have to be able to show that there's some kind of positive return on investment. And that should be a KPI or key performance indicator that we should all be looking at. If they pay you for something, can they see some kind of tangible benefit, cash money in hand, or leads that turn into cash money at hand? I read a book, it's actually from Dan Kennedy, called Almost Alchemy. Really good book. I highly recommend it. It's kind of summarizes all of his no BS series. But that was one of the main points that really kind of stuck with me on that one is get caught up in like the how many likes, how many impressions, all this. Businesses don't care. What they want to know is what does that result look like in cold hard cash? And if you're not producing that, then you're showing them flowery kind of metrics that don't really matter at the end of the day for them. That point said, with businesses, if you're approaching sales in the same manner, a lot of times with SEO, we can get caught up in the technicals, like the really nerdy stuff.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, again, businesses, if you're talking money with them and how you can improve the phone calls, the leads, things like that, that tends to resonate a lot better. And we see that for better or for worse with a lot of the lead gen guys out there. They're the ones that are actually crushing it, actually making money out there because they're making promises now, whether or not they can fulfill on those promises, whole different story. But in general, what I tend to see is a lot of the guys that are actually doing the sales component, they're out there crushing it. So for anyone, you'd asked a little bit about people that were just getting started in SEO and, kind of what they can do. Don't forget your fundamentals, right? There was a old martial arts adage that I'd heard that was, I'm not afraid of the guy who knows 1,000 techniques and has practiced them one time. I'm afraid of the guy that's practiced one technique 1,000 times. And it's those fundamentals that if you really focus in on the, optimizing your GBP, making sure that it's all, it's dialed in, you've got your products, services, everything's filled out as much as it can be. You've got optimized photos. You've got a lot of this other stuff. Once you have all of those things done, once you have good on page with your website, right, then you can branch out in as many different directions as you want. And a good analogy that I like to give is you would never bring, well, I got to be careful with this one on social media because it sometimes doesn't go over well. But you would never escalate. You would never go into a fight guns blazing, right? You never do that right out of the gate because the guy you're going up against may have an armada. He may have the entire Air Force behind him. And he's going to look at you going, well, that's cute that that's everything that you can do. Good job, right? I'm going to bring this full force, right? And so that's one of the things that I do tend to see a lot of people, especially when they're kind of green or new to the industry, they're going to go out there and they're like, well, we're going to do cloud stacks and we're going to just do this to, 1,000,000 deep. And it's going to be just the most biggest badass thing that you've possibly ever seen, right? And they just go whole hog on this. And that's just it really kind of does a disservice because if that's all you can do, you don't have that magic ace up your sleeve when you actually need it, right?
Mhm.
You've exhausted all of your resources, you've thrown it all out there for everyone, in which case it's really unnecessary, right? Do the bare minimum, do the minimum viable SEO. I learned that one from Ted, right?
Yeah.
Minimum viable SEO, get out there, do the bare minimum to get your client ranking, be effective with it. But once they're ranking, then you're kind of maintaining that momentum. Always having those aces up your sleeve and always having those things in your back pocket that in case you actually need something or in case the competition decides to really kind of start nipping at your heels, you can pull that out, and be like, all right, we're going to step ahead. This is how we do it.
Yeah, love it, love it, love it. I like to call it like your best practices, your foundation, right?
Totally.
Best in class. Um, and we have friends, the Lee Wichers, right? The Terry
Yeah.
Samuels that teach the fundamentals. And Honey, right, with image SEO and just the fundamentals within that. And our boy Marlino, right, doing brand, location and your
Brand,
service
brand, brand.
and everything in all those foundational areas, right?
Yeah.
It really is. And in fact, I'm doing a hospice at the moment where everything's super nice. And I think you hit it on it a little bit, but it's the conversion factor, right?
Yeah.
It looks as one thing, but your foundational and your conversion, you have to go a step further for the user of their experience in that 100%, right? Get your foundational stuff, and you'd be surprised. And your experience, Pedro, I know you've dealt with a lot of bigger clients. Like, even when you hit those foundationals, or with your bigger clients, when you do those foundationals and you move that needle, do you see it move at all?
Oh,
Is
absolutely.
that
Yeah, the thing is if you don't have your foundational and you're not getting the good on page, if you don't have those good foundational technical components, you're kind of pushing a boulder or a big rock uphill, right?
yeah.
If you get the foundational stuff down, it makes everything just move quicker, faster. You need less links. I'm a big fan of, again, having talked with the Lees, the Teds, those
Mhm.
kind of guys. It's what can we do to actually move the needle with the least amount of effort? And that's what it always comes back down to is those fundamentals, right? It's the easy stuff. It's the non-sexy things that aren't the ninja tactics, ninja techniques that everyone's out there looking for. It's not the push button stuff. It's the daily grind, right? You do
Yep.
your solid foundation. You do the goods. You do your just it's good foundational work, and that's what actually moves the needle. Then it becomes okay. Well, what's the icing on the cake? What's that little strategy that we need to do to pull ahead of the competition if everyone's doing the same thing, right?
Mhm.
And I think that to me, that's one of the best things that I kind of like looking across, multiple sectors within marketing to see like what can we do to, look, I've considered going to a lot of these other conferences like traffic and conversions, PubCon. Some of these guys, some of these things that in our circle may be a little outside of what we're normally used to. I kind of like
Mhm.
stretching myself to learn new things and see what is it out of these other kinds of conferences that we can take, we can learn from, and then apply in our own unique way, right?
Yep, 100%. Speaking of conferences, I just got back from the Philippines. We did DC
Yeah.
together. Let's switch gears a little bit and tell me, I had a little revelation. Depending on your journey
Mhm.
as a business owner, no matter what conference you go to, they'll have 10, 15, whatever, five speakers, right? Um, do you find it you're really gonna get only one, two, if you're lucky, three things that fit your journey where you're at to get you to the next level? I'll pause. I'll stop there and let you answer that. What do you think? Like, what
So
should be the mindset when you go to these things?
if you can pick out one thing, that's gold right there. If you can pick out multiples, even better. There,
Yeah.
while we were in DC, one of the attendees, one of the speakers, really resonated. One of the things that they were doing really resonated with me, and we actually implemented it right then and there. And definitely, I'll give Nicole a shout out. Credit due where credits, credit given where credit's due.
Mhm.
One of the things that Nicole was doing that I thought was just ingenious is as she was at the conference, she was taking any of the highlights or key takeaways that she had and giving them to her team right then and there, right?
Mhm.
So you
Yep.
could use Slack, Discord, Telegram, doesn't really matter, right? It's just get the information while it's fresh in your mind, get it out there to your team, right? And what I thought was really interesting about that was that when I was talking to her about it, the thing is that her requirement, and obviously this may be her secret sauce, so I don't want to divulge too much into it, but the long and the short of it is when she gets back to the office, her team should have at least looked into whatever it was and or
Mhm.
implemented part of it. And if you want to talk about like some serious growth for an agency or anyone, even a freelancer, right? If you have that where it's like, hey, I need to look into this tonight, I'm going to type up my summary and we're going to dig into this a little deeper, right? I think that's one of the ways to get the most value out of these conferences instead of uh, going to them, getting all hyped up about, I learned all this really cool stuff, and then you don't do anything, right? If
Yeah.
you're going to go to these conferences, understanding that the information that you take there, it's only valuable if you implement. And if you're not going to implement, it's just, I mean, if you want to take it up as a vacation, great. but it doesn't really help you if you're not going to actively implement. And anyone that we've seen, I mean, with all the people that we've discussed so far on the call, everyone that I've seen at any of these conferences or an attendee that has actually taken it, implemented it, and run with it, they're the ones that are succeeding. They're like, oh crap, like that technique actually works pretty well. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
that's why they're speaking at the conference, or that's why they shared the information, because it was probably
Yes.
working well for their agency as well, right?
Yeah,
So
100%. And it's true. And I remember that vividly. She was right in the front. If she got something, bam, off to her team,
yeah,
bam, off
team,
to her team. Yeah, right
go
away,
take a look at
definitely.
this.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And
I
you're
thought
right.
that
I
was just
remember her.
it's amazing.
Yeah, and I remember her saying that her SOP is by the time I get back, they would have looked at it, implemented, or had some type of nay or yay on it.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, that, I like that.
At the very
Now,
least, you've looked at some YouTube videos with it, right? And like, oh yeah, we could totally use that or bring that into what we're doing. I thought that was
yeah,
just
yeah,
incredible.
yeah. Now, Brian, I mean, you know a lot of people know you. Um, how does somebody connect? Like, let's say I'm going to a conference. Man, I want to meet the Brians out there, that, like connect on a personal level. Now I'm gonna give a tip, guys. So if you want to connect with somebody that you look up to, has been where you've been, go to their conferences, say hi, right? Just
Mhm.
be normal, don't be a weirdo, right? And find that common ground, buy into their stuff, right? Brian knows, like I literally put my mouth where my money is, right? I want to support him because he's given me a lot of value. And I think we kind of vibe and connected as
Yeah.
fairly well. Any other tips or tricks that somebody that's just getting started are like, man, yeah, I want to go, but I really want to go to connect with X. Any tips that you have that you can share, how to make connections? Because I think
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
network
So
at all these events is hands
yeah.
down. If you get nothing, you make these connections. How can we improve those connections?
Yeah. So this is gonna be a little tougher for an introvert, but just going up to someone and saying hi, like I'll be completely honest, and hopefully everyone like watching this kind of like I totally fanboy over like Craig Campbell when he asked me to speak at his event. I was like, holy shit, like Craig's asking me to speak here, right? I see Slattery on here. Getting to meet Slattery in person, dude, living legend, right?
Yeah.
And like the list goes on and on. That Ted Kubitis, Lee Witcher, Terry Samuels, Clint Butler, Marco, Bradley, to like all these people that I've learned from or that have really had an impact on my journey, getting to meet them in person. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like it is one of those like, holy shit, I actually just met this person, right? That's really cool. And and so for me, that's just going up and saying, hey, it's really nice to meet you. I really, I appreciated your speech. I had a question for you. Just start up a conversation with that. And the one thing that I would say about these conferences, the speakers and getting to listen to their presentations is one thing. The real gold, and I've heard so many people say this in the past, but the real gold that you're going to get is hanging out with people after hours at either the networking events. Some of the best tips that I've received were after hours, just hanging out with people either at the bar, the swimming pool, just hanging out with people and be like, hey, Alfredo, like tell me a little bit about your business. Like what do you got doing? Oh, you seeing that work? Cool. Like where are you getting stuck? Right? How can we,
Yes.
here's where I'm getting stuck. What are you seeing with this? And just striking up that conversation. At the end of the day, it's just making those connections. And at the very least, you've added then to your network. And I know Merlino said this time and time again. I've heard it from several people, but your network is your net worth. If you have people that you can call up at any time, be like, hey, I got this problem. Have you ever seen this before? Right?
Yeah.
It's an amazing, it's just really incredible to be able to call someone up and be like, hey, I'm not sure what we need to do here. Can you point me in the right direction? right?
Yeah,
I think that that's just,
100%.
that's the benefit.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, just from DC, that's where met James face to face, right? We always meet each other
Right?
like through Messenger or Facebook, and I see his channel. But there's a whole new level, like, hey, this Alfred guy is not as bad as people say, right? Quote unquote. But yeah, James, literally, Brian, James on here have given me tools, given me guidance, and literally the conversation has gone like that. Hey, this is what I'm at. This is where I'm stuck. And especially James, we were using the
Yeah.
same tool, and it's like, oh yeah, here, boom, here's the SOP, right? Boom, and those connections, and we all hit it off. We're all speaking the same language, so definitely
Yeah.
100%. So love that, love that. So Brian, SEO, nerdy stuff, man. What you got going on? All this nerdy stuff. What's popping right
So
now?
AI is the big thing. Like no matter how you slice it, you can't get away from it, right? We've integrated a lot of stuff with Sheets. I'll actually be speaking this coming weekend at Dark AI in Schaumburg, Chicago area, and we'll be going over some. It's going to be some dark AI stuff. It'll be fun. But there's going to be a lot of stuff that I'm seeing with sheet automation and just being able to better understand data, right? Whether you're just trying to use it for a better understanding of data. We've been playing around with stuff recently where we're we're working on reversing the knowledge graph using different node connectors and things like that, different AI LLM models. We've got some really fun stuff that we've been playing around with there. And so
Cool.
that's been really interesting. Understanding, again, going back to the whole idea of like copywriting, linguistics, understanding language, right? And not that you have to understand and dissect every little component of language, but understanding that language is what Google is kind of built on. They're a categorical system. They're trying to categorize the internet. And what better way to do that than through linguistics and natural language processing, right? Um, I would also argue in the same breath that Google is not a search engine, that they are a paid media company that just happens to do search better than everyone else. But I digress. That's a whole nother topic and rabbit hole we can go down. Um, what I think is really interesting though is when you start pulling in AI and automating a lot of stuff, be it through make automations like Dan was showing in DC, or Zero Work. I know James is a big fan of that one. There's a number of other tools, Zapier, Pabbly, right? The list goes on and on. IFTTT, right? Old school. But a lot of those kinds of things, they help automate things and just make your life a whole lot easier, right?
Mhm.
And so I think that that to me is like integrating that and using automation to help streamline your AI journey, using AI to enhance what you're able to do. And let's be honest, if you're not jumping into some kind of AI, your competition is, and they're going to leave you in the dust, right? So that's kind of what we've been playing around with. We've been doing a lot of stuff with that. I again like pushing the limits. We've been doing a lot of different kind of pushing the limits with what ChatGPT and different LLMs will give us. Definitely in the realm of like red team testing, or kind of like pushing it to see what we can get away with and what we can't get away with. So
Awesome. So guys, AI, right? Automation. It's really, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, but even from 6 months ago, um, the things that Dan showed us at DC with automations, it's come a long way.
yeah.
It's not like, man, how do I put this puzzle together? It's like, no, just say it, and it does it almost for you automatically. It's come a long, 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 long way for sure. So,
Well, and I think the
make,
pieces for that have been there in the past, but it's become more accessible to
mm,
everyone. And what's interesting with that is that if you talk to anyone outside of the SEO or marketing space, this AI thing is brand new to them. I've had the opportunity to speak at a couple of the colleges in the area on this, and small business owners, things like that. It's amazing that they have no idea what's possible with AI. They're like, oh, well, it's just like you chat to it. I'm like, no, there's so much more you can do with this. And I've
Yeah.
shown them different ways. Like one of the automations that we will do is it's basically it's an automation that does your social media more or less on autopilot with current events, current news, different things like that. There's plenty of YouTube tutorials, way more than one, that you can check out online, and they're really easy to put together. Most of them are low or no code applications where you're just hooking stuff together with like make,
Mhm.
right? What's interesting with that is this is something that small business owners in particular, the guys that are willing to pay you, have no idea how to pull off and no idea how to implement. So when you're actually doing this for them, you look like some kind of, Mr. Robot savant. And you're like, I mean, for us, it's no big deal because we've been seeing this over and over for the last 6 months, year, 2 years. But the larger population has no idea what's actually going on with AI. They've heard about it maybe on the news, but it's still not at the point where people are really mass adopting it. So I think that's
Right.
interesting.
Yeah, 100%. I think with anything, right? Any tool, anything you learn is that implementation. Like I heard it can do this, but how do I implement it or how do I put it into practice to make
Yeah.
business a lot easier? So as we're coming to an end, Brian, how can we follow you if you want to learn anything more? Do you
Yeah.
have a YouTube channel, Facebook? How can we support you? The people that will catch the podcast or the YouTube channel. How
Yeah.
can we follow you?
Yeah. So Facebook's usually good. So Facebook and Instagram. I'll drop my handles in there. It's just uh, Facebook. It's just, I believe, last name dot first name. Instagram, it's KATO. So Kato Bikato. That's my handle on that. Same thing on Twitter. Same one. Um, I also am speaking at a number of events. So as I mentioned, Dark AI coming up this week. I'll be speaking
Mhm.
in Southern Colorado the week after that. And then SEO Rockstars. Again, you were talking about conferences. If you guys can make it out to that one, it's going to be off the charts. It's going to be a really cool event. And Las Vegas. So that's always a good time. But definitely hit me up there. Outside of that, I do have a website. It's Fusion Vine. That's my agency. And within probably about 2 weeks, I actually have another website that I'll be launching. It's just my name, briancotto.com. And that'll be up and live here in probably about a week or two.
Awesome. So yeah, definitely, guys. I would recommend the Vegas one for sure. Right. Um, Lots of fun. It's in my backyard, probably a couple hours from me. So if you want to meet Brian, that's a nice place to go to. A lot of good speakers too at that. Who runs that?
So Dory and Clint.
Or yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Clint's always a cool dude. Puts on
Mhm.
good programs.
Slattery's
So yeah,
speaking out there. So
yeah. So yeah, I am planning to go to that one. So since it's in my backyard, plus I like the speakers, meet Brian again, have a cigar, have a drink with them for sure. So I am planning to be there, guys. If you want to meet, even James that's on here, meet everyone that's on there. Everybody's super cool. So let's support Brian, guys. BrianKato. And I'll put that in the comments as well for you guys. I appreciate you. Brian, so I asked this about all my guests, right? All my
yeah,
guests that I asked this. What is a fun fact about you that nobody knows?
then no one knows. That's a good question. Uh, Fun fact about me that no one knows. Um, that's a really good question. I kind of wear my heart on my sleeve, so I kind of say what's on my mind most of the time. I would say, if anything, fun fact would probably be, I am still BMI affiliated, still like do music from time to time. And I musician at heart. It's always been in my blood. So
So you said you sing? It was a lead
mhm,
singer
yeah.
spot?
Yeah, I
What
was a
kind of
lead singer
music?
for a band, kind of hard rock, alternative rock. So I did
Nice.
that for
Okay.
about 13 years.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
There you go. Fun fact, right, guys? So I appreciate you, man. I thank you for coming on here. Guys, don't forget to follow Brian. And I look forward to seeing you in Vegas, my man. I really do. Let's
Awesome.
support SEO Rockstar, Clint and Dory. I appreciate everyone. And with that being said, much love, much success, and I'll catch you on the next one.